Our penultimate speaker in this session is Mr. Sandro Di Simplicio. Sandro is a consultant vitreoretinal surgeon in the NHS in Newcastle, but he also works doing a lot of cataract and refractive work for UKISCRS, and he's going to speak to us about working for the company.
Yeah, and thank you very much for having me. I start thanking the board for having me around, and with an apology for you. You know, I'm Italian, I'm gonna move hands and walk around, right? I won't stand behind a podium. So yes, I'm Sandro Di Simplicio, and these are my disclosures, none of which are really particularly important for this talk, even if they will be mentioned in a minute. And what's the objective of this presentation? Is really to discuss differences, synergies, and challenges between the public and the private work, and why working for a company is something which works for me. I'm not here to convince you that it's the way forward. I'm here to give you a different point of view on something that you might want to consider in your life, all right? And the reasons why it works perfectly well in my lifestyle. But to do this, you need to understand who I am, because otherwise you wouldn't understand why that would fit in my sort of day-to-day life. So I have a complex personality. Now, some of my colleagues, I'm sure, would use different words, but David asked me to keep it polite, so we will stick to my definition of myself, all right? Why is that? First of all, I'm a strange beast to start with, because I'm a vitreoretinal surgeon, I'm a cataract surgeon, I'm a refractive surgeon, which already is a mix which doesn't really happen very often. Also, I'm a commercial pilot, I fly planes, I do enjoy doing that. I'm a semi-professional athlete. I run anything between 5Ks and 100 miles. And I do a lot of public speaking, working together with this company that we have mentioned before. What does this mean? This means that I need flexibility and I need time, right? So that's why working for a company is what is best suited for me. So what's the object of this presentation? We said this, let's go ahead. So organizational structure. What are the differences between the NHS and the private company? Some of these concepts are very basic, you know, something that you really know, but it's just important to focus on them again. One of my biggest flaw is that I tend to get bored. So I need to keep myself entertained doing different things, all right? And having different activities, hence not only the work, but the sort of private life, as I've mentioned before, keeps me entertained and keeps me going. So in the public, you have these hierarchical, standardized procedures and bureaucracy, which drives you insane. Everybody who works in the NHS can relate to that, but it's a challenge. So it's something which, in a sense, can be entertaining. Whilst, of course, in the private, you are much more customer-focused, flexible, efficient. It's a complete different mindset. I run my cataract clinic at the hospital in the morning, and I know that I have to do that in that way, and if I don't fill that form, I'm gonna get a complaint the following day because everything is set on the stone. I moved to the private company that I work for, which is UKISCRS, is no secret about that, and everything is very different, so it's a switch on the mindset. Also, the patients are completely different. In the public, let alone the universal access, but you have complex and chronic diseases. They're quite fun, right? You know, you have something that you've never seen before. You have to figure out how to solve it. It's a surgical challenge. It's a medical issue. So it really sort of screw your brain in a way to get the best out of it. In the private, of course, it's a different kind of setting. First of all, I do refractive, so it's high expectations. When I do VR, it's more like, hi, I'm here, can you see me? In the private, if you don't get 6'6", you know, you are in big trouble. And of course, the service is much more personalized. So freedom and flexibility. This is exactly what I need in my life. So scheduling freedom, organize the work which suit your need. So I do different things. Not everything is in Newcastle. I wish it was, but if I have to run a marathon, maybe I have to go to Frankfurt to do it. So I need the time and the opportunity to be able to do that. Work-life balance. You have a much greater control over your work, and it improves your satisfaction. So if you work for a company, you can kind of decide your schedule. You can make an agreement with them. I will work more days this week, less day next one. So everything kind of works together in your favor. Of course, you need to be a little bit organized in your life. That's fair enough, but it's definitely something which can be achieved. And of course, professional autonomy. You are still under a hierarchy because it's not your company, but the pyramid is usually short, so you can try to improve process. Now, if there is one thing I'm proud in life is the clinic of Optical Express where I work in Newcastle. I've been working there for 7-8 years. It was all right when I joined, but over this period of time, we made big and smaller and even minuscule changes to the nitty-gritty that now everybody needs to know where he has to step their feet to make the work flow flawlessly, all right? So these are the kind of changes that you can do. Now, think about this and think about you are the CEO of your company. So scheduling freedom, it's completely out of the door. Yeah, you pretty much work and you have meetings. If you are not operating, you have to meet with the industry, you have to meet with the regulators, you have the CQC coming out of the blue, hello, we are here, you have to deal with that. So that's difficult. Work-life balance, I would change it into work-on-call balance. So you work, and when you don't work, you kind of wait with your phone for some problem to come up, which you have to solve. And of course, you have much more professional autonomy because it's your company, you can do whatever you like. That's very clear. But you know, it's probably easier, as we said, on sort of, you're less likely to get stressed out because if you have a problem, it's not only your problem. Right? We do have problems from time to time in Optical Express. I pick up the phone, I call head office, and at the end of the day, it's their job to solve that problem, and they are willing to do it because for them it's efficiency, it's patient happiness, and it's sort of business. So challenges and opportunities. Of course, one challenge is the conflict of interest. This is something I'm very sort of proud of, because when I joined Optical Express, I told them, look, I will never do what I do in the NHS with you. And at that stage, I mean, it wasn't a choice, because we're simply two different worlds. But now Optical Express has an NHS part of it, and I stick to my rule. I said I will never do an NHS patient for you because I do them at the hospital 3 minutes down the road. So I will keep this thing separate. This is something that I strongly believe in, and the conflict of interest, I'm not the judge of anybody's ethic, moral standard here, but it's something that you need to ask yourself. Of course, there are different expectations, is what we mentioned before, very different approach and type of patient, refractive versus VR patients, etc. But of course, you have a much broader experience. Where would I ever be able to do a LASIK surgery in the NHS? There is pretty much not a chance in the world. You have much more space of innovation. This comes very much down to you. I am a very innovative person. I like trying gadgets, right? Whatever you throw at me, I'll give it a go, and I'll definitely try. Professional growth. I mean, I am blessed to be working with amazing colleagues. You've seen the presentation before, Roxanne Hillier here, what she's capable of doing. You know, if anything happens, she's always on the other side of the phone. I see in the audience Rajan, who's an amazing cataract surgeon, Richard, who probably taught me 90% of what I know about VR, and even if we don't work together, if he's on the other side of the phone if I need him. And for refractive, we have a couple of refractive surgeons in Optical Express, which between the two of them are in excess of 100,000 procedures. So there is no problem that they cannot solve, all right? So the professional growth is incredibly good. And of course, a more stimulating mix of duties. This is pretty much what we mentioned before. Now, of course, there are the usual crucial aspects, which if you work in the NHS are usually 2 of them, but working for the company makes them 3. So patients, you need to provide the high quality of care as best as you possibly can. The company, you need to look after the company. You cannot just forget that you are an employee of a business which is there to provide good care and make money. So you need to find the good balance. It's not an easy process, I tell you that. And of course, yourself, maintaining your professional status and well-being. Now, reality check. Which one of these is the most important? Now, this feels like a gotcha question, right? It's obvious that if you are sitting in front of a panel going for your consultant job, there is only one politically correct answer to this question, which is the patient. The most important part of that is you. And why is not the patient and is you? And I want to make a disclosure. It's never a clear cut, all right? It's never this and not that. It's usually this and that together, maybe a little skewed in one direction. It's about you, because if you protect yourself and you always adhere to your standard, you have a good work-life balance and you are happier at work. I think we can all agree on that pretty much? Good. If you are happier at work, you are more productive, you make less mistakes, and more importantly, you protect your GMC registration, which is something that not everybody thinks about as often as they should. Because if you don't protect your GMC registration, you will not be able to care for people and to care for the company. So you are the center of this universe. Protecting yourself helps you to carry on working for the company and to carry on working for all the people around you that you care about, all right? So remember about this. So in conclusion, there is really no need to necessarily having to set up your own company. I mean, someone must do that, otherwise there would be no company to work for, all right? But it's not the only option. It's not the only option. You do it, someone does. If I were up to the standard of setting up my own practice, which probably I am not, all right? But if I were to, would I be as happy as working for? I don't know, because it's a balance. So it's something that you really need to think about. So there is no necessarily need to set up your own company. Working for a company is a great option, but you must trust the company. You need to believe that they are doing something good. You need to believe that what they want to deliver is what you want to deliver. You just don't just have to turn up for a salary, because that's going to be a very short-lived partnership. It's probably, I would say, forget probably, it's less lucrative, but it's much nicer on your sort of coronary arteries, and you're less likely to die of a stroke for that, okay? But you have to set your boundaries, you have to discuss them, you have to agree and stick to them. I've been working for UKISCRS for 7-8 years. It has not always been plain sailing. Sometimes we've had different views on different things. What's important is that we are all adults. I trust what they do. They see me as an asset and a good doctor to have in their company. Otherwise, probably I would have been fired by now. And being adult and sitting down and solving problems and setting boundaries, it's what is important, because what is true for me may be not true for the doctor just next to me, all right? So it's important to stick to that. Enjoy the space that you have and work to improve what you do. So if you work for a company, it's crystal clear it's not your own, so you can't just do whatever you like, but you can definitely make suggestions and try to improve how the processes work and what they do to make it better for you, for them, and of course, for the patients. And as we said before, protect your GMC and consequently the patients and the company that you are working for. Thank you very much.